Alright, I'm going to do a little video on what I consider the best straight axle bike ever manufactured. My personal favorite is the Bombardier Traxter, or in this case I have had this John Deere EXT, and I've had it ever since it was new, 2005, and this thing is phenomenal. It has the earliest visco-lock front end, and I mean the earliest. Doesn't mean that it didn't work. It actually does work. I like it. There's the big visco-lock in there, and it is massive. There is no question about how big that visco-lock differential is in the front there. It does still work even after like 8,000 kilometers, but that's only because of the beautiful condition that these front tires are in. And even I had a tie rod end go, so I've updated to the much larger tie rod. What is it, a 10 millimeter bar or something like that? But when it let go, it also snapped an axle. So for a little while there, I just actually popped the ball back in there and drove around with one less front axle. And visco-locked always worked. I consider this machine the best straight axle machine, partly due to its maintenance as well. There is very little maintenance. You can easily get to the oil and filter. The seat completely pops off with no effort whatsoever. There is a pull start, but I don't use the pull start because it actually does not work. Or sorry, to pull it is a monster. Literally, when I pull it, it had such massive kick, it broke in my hand, this pull start cable. It is some wicked kick to this motor. This is a 500 liquid. It's a 2-valve. There's where the air filter is. Push this, and actually you push it and you lean with your back. And it opens that. You have grease zerks even on, oh man, it's so dirty it is, even on the pivot. There's a grease zerk. There's grease zerks on the suspension. Again, very hard to see, but all the components, there's a grease zerk on all of the A-arm bushings. The rad's in the back, which how awesome do you think this is to clean it out every single ride? There is just no problem whatsoever. This is probably the best design on top of the step-through, which never ever having to put your feet over top of the seat makes a huge difference. Now this being an EXT, the rear is set up, the suspension wise, is set up for weight. So its payload is 600 pounds in the back of this. There is adjustable suspension, or adjustable springs. And again, this is why I consider this straight axle. This is a one beefy straight axle. It's got disc brake. It has got, actually this is the awesome, like, right, it's completely sealed diff in this case. There's a cute little rad fan on the back, which never sees the debris. And actually, it is literally ready to be bolted up to put paddles on the outside, little paddles. But look at the nice little stretch here. This will be a beautiful spot to put a paddle on it as well. Straight axle bikes, you know, they have their place. When you go and you put a trailer on them, all the weight of the trailer goes onto the rear axle and the tires and not the suspension of the machine. That in itself is the one thing I love about the straight axle. Out of all the Hondas though, this machine has had more power than any Honda straight axle. An old Grizzly 600 with a straight axle has the power of this thing. This thing will do 100 kilometers an hour. It weighs about 800, maybe even 850 pounds. It has high and low range. This one is an electric shift. There is no automatic override. This one, being an extended wheelbase, has a little higher engaging. It'll engage the clutch at about 1600, the centrifugal clutch. it's a little higher than the short wheelbase buck version with the RAS. And because of that, it is very easy, this one, to get in high and low range. There's high, there's low, there's reverse, there's the nice shift indicators. This bike is solid. It is an 05. They did have foot shifters in the Bombardier version. There is a bolt at the back. I am got to get a little bit more familiar with it. But the overriding shifting, for if there's any issues with the electric shift, you can use a tool and manually put it in like second gear. Yeah, I don't know, it's somewhere in there. That's somewhere in there. It would be nicer if this machine was fuel injected. It is full-time four-wheel drive, so it does make it a little heavier. Oh yeah, this is another thing. Why can't they all make machines like this still? Got your gas tank right here, which it's still a 20-liter gas tank, absolutely massive. This will fit a 12-pack. All the friggin' ice you possibly need. When the ice melts, you can drop it, the water through the drain. Put the toolbox back in. If you're really into the bush and you like to have extra fuel cans, you can actually fit 4-liter jugs right here. 1, 2, and they sit in there absolutely perfect. There's never had an issue with anything coming apart or coming out of those little cubby holes. They do have little drains on the bottom, or good sized drains. And another thing is these foot pedals. This is solid. This thing can hit trees along the side and it's just gonna push it away. It is a very, very nice setup. These do come in an automatic. John Deere especially made their box version with a 650. When they have a 650 engine, they have a half step through design. I think this is the last of the manual 4x4s. Probably the only manual 4x4s from Bombardier. I think this machine was directly developed in order to compete against the Hondas and their reliability and their straight rear ends. And, you know, I think Bombardier wanted a machine that would work hard. And what they build was a machine that works hard, and then they go put a Rotax, and Rotax has always got to be freaking right up there on power. Let's have fun with this thing. 4,000 miles. Again, I just press the brake. Nope. Gotta love carburetors. Camera and between my legs. Nice thing is my legs are fitting right in the nice step through design. Alright. This for an old straight axle John Deere. Whoops, gotta love carburetors. Just ripped 100 kilometers or 80 before even the property ended. Now this bike, this Rotax engine, red lines at 8,500. Oh, now it just takes a second to warm it up. And she is idling nice, high range. Again, this is I will not buy a Honda unless they build it with, it'll go 100, or like, sorry, a Honda with a straight axle, unless it goes at least 100 kilometers an hour. This thing is just a wicked monster. It keeps going. It feels good. I wish it had two-wheel drive. I wish it had power steering. This thing is not light. Yeah, because I don't know if you noticed, I squeezed so bloody hard, my friggin', I stopped. This is another thing that I really liked right from the factory. Look at this skid plate. Like it is a skid plate. That's a little bit of an anchor, but at least it's a skid. Not anything else that really jagged or hard, that really catches. There's where your oil drain plug is, so it's still quite accessible. And again, you can see the disc brakes, which are actually drilled rotors for heat dissipation. Oh man. Alright, and again, that is my conclusion on the most solid straight axle bike ever made. This thing is a moose hauler. This thing is devastating to hook another machine up to. This will keep competitively pulling, even against machines twice its power. Plus, it's a manual. Actually, this is kind of funny too. I tried to pull on one of these one day, so you think that's pretty solid? But I ripped this one off. It was floating in there with plastic. Yeah, what else? Live and learn. If you got the 651, it also had a little slightly different bumper setup. Yep, I love this bike. After this one, till that Rubicon IRS from Honda came out, I had no motivation to even look at a Honda. And actually, after all the new Bombardiers came out with the new automatics and all belt drives, it really let me down. This one I just changed the oil and go. I literally only change the oil and go because there's nothing else. If something else happens, it's broken. Unlike all the other newer machines, I actually grease the suspension components on this so it don't friggin' squeak. And just to prove it, hear that? It shocks. I don't know. This machine's awesome. And the Bombardier, so it's a Bombardier Traxter. They came out in 1999. The Bombardier Traxter version of this is an XL. The Bombardier 2-up seat has the same length as this and the same transmission clutch engaging at 1600, but it has a different rear suspension that is much softer. This one is the only one with the heavy-duty suspension, or the XL or the John Deere EXT. If you had a 650 or the little higher trail buck version, you would have also got a 1-inch receiver in the front. But because I got the base model EXT, it did not come with the receiver in the front, and it came with the 500 engine. But again, that was the idea. No belt drives. We had a John Deere Bucks or John Deere Gators for too long. And when you go into the manure pile with a John Deere Gator and you hit the little wet spot and you get some water on that belt, it goes nowhere and it stays in poopy water. So this thing will drive out of poopy water any day. And that's the way I'm going to end her. I'm going to drive out of poopy water. This thing will drive out of poopy water. A little closer too there. This, for a manual bike, has its own park setting, which is awesome. So there's park, P for park, R for reverse, N for neutral, and then first gear high, first gear low. There's actually the fuel gauge. It's pretty awesome the way it is. But then again, when you got a 20-liter fuel tank, it just makes you sick when you see E. Actually, this thumb throttle broke off. It broke off right here, and I had to put a new thumb throttle on it. And for some reason, the plastics are typical for Bombardier junk. The plastics break very easily. That's the only thing Honda really has. They're really good with using high quality components. But the handlebar grips are way better on this machine. They're already folding and spinning on the Honda. Alright. Watch how she starts. Neutral. Carburetors. Never did get those hours. It clearly does not have 51 hours on this machine. Maybe that's more like 510.5 hours. But if it only shows 51 hours, that's awesome.